Hello class, welcome to week 6. We're going to go over the lectures labeled week 6 raster art and week 6 color, as well as do a quick review of the 2 reading recommendations for week 6. You will notice when we click on week 6 raster art, it does say week 7. This is kind of a rollover into also applicable information for week 7. I'm going to expand this. And we're going to just kind of cruise right through. Again, this is inside of your module. You can review this right along with me. You can go back and look over it again. These are some important concepts that we're going to go over so you understand specifically what is raster art. Okay, so you can see there's an example of vector versus raster here. Raster images are often called bitmap images. They are made of millions of tiny squares called pixels. You can identify a raster or a bitmap image by looking at it very closely, as you will see the squares make up the image. Here's another example, okay? What is raster art? So raster images most often have larger file sizes than vector images. Also, the higher the DPI, so dots per inch, the larger the file. The higher DPI means that there are more pixels in that inch of space. More pixels also add more clarity to your image. Raster art is used for photographs since you can show millions of colors. They come in a multitude of different file types and they all work a bit differently. There are types of raster graphics. For example, a PSD, which is a Photoshop file. That's the native file format for Photoshop files. It supports transparency, channels, masks, and vector type and objects, paths, and layers. This file type is not supported for web, and the majority of what we are completing in this course will be PSD files. There are additional types of raster graphics. So a JPEG, as you can see, both formats here, is a joint photographic experts group. The most popular raster graphic file format using compression algorithms that enable you to achieve a smaller file size with minimal quality loss. When you save a JPEG file, you select a compression level by adjusting the file quality to file size ratio. And then there is a GIF. So this is used for graphics, illustrations, not photos. There are a limited number of colors, 256, where JPEG supports over 16.7 million colors. One of the colors in the palette of a GIF file can be transparent, okay? All right, let's go ahead then and move into our color review. So we're going to discuss additive versus subtractive. You can see there's an additive color chart here that includes magenta, red, yellow, green, cyan, blue, and white. And these are going to be the focus for monitors, screens, and TVs. And then you can see there's subtractive color over here where we have blue, magenta, red, yellow, green, cyan, and black, which is going to be for paint and printers. Our additive primary colors, which you'll see here, our RGB, is going to be red, blue, and green. And you can see when you are inside of the color picker within these programs in general that you will be able to look at the RGB as represented here, the RGB color code, shall we say, from the color picker example. So this is just giving you that idea of what this looks like when it's open. Subtractive primary colors are cyan, magenta, black, and yellow, or CMYK. And again, you can see that again represented here by the percentages for CMYK colors. Now we're going to discuss hue. So hue is referred to when describing a pure color. In other words, a color with no other color mixed with it. The hues are the primary colors, red, yellow, and blue. Another example of hue is looking at the different variations within a hue. So the hue of the colors below is yellow, as it is the dominant color in each of the triangles, but you can see there's variations within this hue of yellow, right? Which is represented amongst these variation colors. And you can see that the hue representation within this color picker box is represented in this segment. And you'll see the arrows pointing here and the H here, okay? Color intensity. So intensity refers to the brightness or dullness of a color, which we can see represented in this very muted red versus very bright red, attention getting red. Intensity wise, you can see that that's represented across this space with the arrow here. And then we get to color value. So value is defined as the lightness or the darkness of a color, and there's a value scale representation. And again, you'll see that here and represented here. As well as this example where it shows you that red to pink is both a change in intensity and in value, all right? Now we're gonna look at analogous. So any two colors that are side by side on the color wheel are considered analogous. So in the instance to the left, the color above and below the chosen color are next to it on the color wheel. And that covers analogous. Now, what I want you to then go and do is inside of your module, you're going to see that there is a link here and it says Open Essential Guide to Color Schemes, Definitions, Examples, and Tips in a new window. And when you click that, you're going to see that this here opens. And this is going through an essential guide overview to understanding color schemes in general, all right? This is really important to know. It's important to understand how these work together. And we're going to spend a few minutes briefly discussing them in this lecture, but I do encourage you to go back through this article, read this more in depth so that you can actually take in all this information. As creatives, we have to be familiar with the color theory and the types of color schemes, whether it's for artistic expression or design needs. This is very important, okay? So as a reminder, all of these little links take you elsewhere. So feel free again to come back in, read this information, head to those links. So what is a color scheme? It's a combination of colors that work well together visually, and it's most commonly utilized in graphic design, interior design, fashion, and the arts, okay? So the purpose of a color scheme is to create a unified aesthetic and appeal to the viewer. And there are 7 types of color schemes that you're going to come in here and read about. The first one being monochromatic, the second being complementary, and you'll see there's representation here, and it's going to explain what this means to you. There is then the third one, which is split complementary. So this is building off of the second one. And again, you'll be able to see that representation here. There's achromatic, and obviously we can kind of see that that's going through our neutral colors, such as black, white, and gray. Analogous, which we just visited a little bit in our lecture file. You can read more about that process here. It'll walk you through the details of that. And then we have our triadic. And our triadic and our tetradic are similar. So you're going to learn about the concepts of both of these. And then it's going to go through some tips for using color schemes. So I want you to read through these as well and make sure that you save this article link so you have this outside of class as well. And then we're going to cruise on over when we go to next to our additional article on color theory, which opens this here. And this is going to then further elaborate on the additional concepts we just discussed. So use color theory to choose the best colors for your design is the name of the article. And I love this. So she was so mad she saw red. When it rains, he feels blue. They were green with envy. So we really know that color definitely evokes emotions. It can soothe us, alert us, right? Annoy us, as this title starts out here. It's one of the most accessible aspects of design, and it's deeply complex and technical, okay? So I want you guys to really thoroughly read through this article. Click on all these links. So understand the principles and tactics to making compelling color choices. Understand researching colors for your projects and the importance of that. Get to know your color wheel. This is one part I do want to read from this. So the traditional 12-spoke color wheel might look really simple to us, right? We're familiar with it, at least to the point that we've seen it. We know what it is, okay? But it actually took one of the greatest scientists of all time, which is Sir Isaac Newton, to invent it back in 1666. Essentially, it shows color arranged around a circle to indicate the relationships between them. This color wheel is still the standard for art and visual design and uses an RYB, so red, yellow, blue, color model. But there are also others, which you're familiar with, of course, CMYK and RGB, all right? CMYK is for print, RGB for screen. So in this article, you're going to go through the RYB color model. You're going to understand the secondary colors in this model. It's going to give you some examples. And then it's going to continue to walk you through understanding harmony in your color choices. Okay, understanding a little more about that analogous color, which we have now visited in the other two additional articles. But again, this is more in depth. So take the time to read through that. It's going to talk about the triadic color scheme for your designs, split complementary, so on and so forth. All right. So you're going to go through this, and then you're going to go through learning how to choose colors by tonal range as well. So based on hue, tint, tone, and shade. This will continue to help you. You're going to talk about designing with mid-tone colors as well as pastel colors. Pastel colors, of course, they like to reappear. We've got those 50s kitchens, those 80s Miami Vice episodes, the 2000 Wes Anderson films, right? They invoke soothing, lighthearted vibes. Okay, so pastel colors are this fun, funky feel, and I've seen a little bit of it even, I feel like, come back in fashion to a certain extent. And then you're going to go through talking about choosing neutral colors, so those really muted tones, creating a monochromatic, color scheme. And I'll walk you through the details here and some great examples of such. And then it's gonna go through the final thoughts of our black and white colors, right? And there is a science-heavy explanation. You can read about this. But yeah, so that's going to be the two articles you're reading this week. Make sure to take the time to read them thoroughly. Again, I encourage you to save these articles somewhere in your notes so you have access to them in the future. And of course, you have access to both lecture files inside of your Module 6. If you have any questions, let me know.